Today I want to talk about nutrition. And the reason I was talking to Brianne actually is how it came to be that I heard certain people were, either sick or out of work or, feeling lousy. So I thought it would be appropriate to kind of give this talk, which really spells out, what you should be doing in the wintertime to kind of safeguard yourself, because it's not like you have to automatically get sick. I know a lot of people are getting sick, but through boosting your immune system, you don't need flu shots, you don't need to go to the doctor and get antibiotics. So that's what we're going to do today. So the first thing I want to talk about is, I like my colleague, Sarah Outlaw, who this talk is sort of modeled after, we eat what's called a paleo type diet. So paleo means that you're eating mostly veggies and healthy fat and protein. So you're not eating carbs, or the carbs you're getting are from vegetables, right? So the idea is not to have grains or sugar. Grains break down to sugar. So of course any breakfast cereal is totally taboo, because anything you see in the main part of the store is taboo, really. That's all processed. But even some of the grains that you might see in bulk, really, I'm going to show you that some people are allergic to some of these grains because the nature of how they're grown in America today. We have food sensitivities to these grains. So these grains cause inflammation, and that's what makes you sick. So what we want to concentrate on is eating a diversity of foods and a diversity of vegetables. So that means like a whole plethora, a whole rainbow of vegetables, like red, yellow, purple, green. Of course, eating mostly dark leafy greens are your kind of like standard. That's what you really want to have, mostly. So there's another fellow out there who talks about GOMS. So GOMS stands for green leafy vegetables, predominantly. O is onions, M is mushrooms, B is berries, berries and beans, and S is seeds and nuts. So those are what's called phytonutrients. Those are like loaded, those are like superfoods, what's called nowadays superfoods. So that's what you want to think about eating, mostly these foods that are really rich in nutrition. They call them high density nutritious food. So, when like bacteria and viruses, for instance, feed off sugar. Sugar is like deadly. You should think of sugar like cocaine, or even worse. It's really has so many adverse reactions in the body. So it's not just like a saying. It really is true that you should just notice how you feel as soon as you eat something like a cookie or a sweet thing. Just notice your state of mind. Notice how alert you are, or how focused or not focused you are. So these things, food really matters. Food is like who you are. So when you eat these sort of superfoods, you feel great and you don't get sick. When you eat the other stuff, your body can't fight off infections. Okay? So alcohol is also kind of depresses the immune system. I'm not saying to never drink, of course, when you
thank God.
Especially in your 20s, it's kind of crazy to say that. But the thing is, you should realize it's going to have an effect on your immune system. So I'm going to demonstrate later. I want to demonstrate the kind of what we call design clinical nutrition, how we tell like what's the root cause of why someone's sick. Now you see a lot of people who are getting sick, and also it's lingering, right? This flu is pretty virulent. So some people it's taking 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks to get better. It's taking really a long time. And so I want to show you how we in my office test people to see how you can accelerate the healing, how you can, besides these foods that I'm mentioning, just broad-based foods, there's also specific supplements we use to get people to heal faster, to boost the immune system. So everything is based on supporting and increasing your immune function. So again, you want to eat like 8 to 14 cups of vegetables a day. that sounds like a lot, but when you cook down like spinach, as you know, it just really shrinks down. So you want to have like leafy greens, colorful vegetables, the cruciferous vegetables, which are broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, bok choy, arugula, Brussels sprouts, collard greens. These are the really super immune vegetables to be eating. And also, this is probably something that that you may or may not know, that you want to increase your fats. So when I say fats, I mean good fats. I mean good fats meaning like coconut oil, avocado, butter, ghee. Not the bad fats, not like canola oil or margarine or things like that, but the good fats, because the good fats really nourish your brain, which there was a whole craze. I don't know if you realize that this is going back into the 80s, where they kind of started this low-fat diet, and now you go to the market and you see in the yogurt section there's no regular whole milk. You have to look for it. All the low-fat yogurts are in front. So that was like a bad idea that just took hold. Because a physiologist kind of won the battle, and so his thing took hold. But really fats, good fats, are, they're really important to have in our diet.
I have a quick question.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know the ketogenic diet, right?
A little bit. I know a little bit about the ketogenic.
Okay, my one question on it is, so they talk about how fats are good and stuff like that, like the fats you mentioned. But they also mentioned things like, how like bacon and like lard is good for fueling the brain. Is that something that you would agree with or no?
I'd say in moderation, really, in moderation. As compared to something like the coconut oil you could put in your coffee every morning, and it'd be a great way to wake up your brain and start your day. So that you can have as much as you want.
Right.
But the other one I would have in limited quantities.
Okay.
Organ meats, so all these things that we think of as like, I don't know, disgusting, are really where it's at, because that's kind of what, our ancestors ate. That's what really has the most vitamins and minerals, so it really does like fuel, give you the nutrients you need, that, There's an institute based on, it started here, and then the guy who started, Max Gerson, was an MD. He was curing cancer in the 50s, and he actually presented in front of Congress, and he had a book called 50 Case Histories of people he had cured. He had well documented with x-rays and lab work, and as a reward, he was sort of disbarred from being a doctor. That's kind of what happens in America. If you actually cure something, you kind of get, stripped of your license. So he went to Mexico. They set up a clinic in Mexico, and his daughter now runs the clinic. So he wasn't certainly not curing everybody of cancer, but he had a decent percentage rate of people who were terminally ill. And through his diet, which was a lot of juicing, like round the clock, juicing of, green juices and different, beet juice, different juices. But he also, he also gave liver supplements. He also gave maybe liver meat as well, because he realized he had to do that. Well, his daughter, who took over the clinic after he died, she only did the cleansing part. She just continued this round the clock juicing. And the results went way downhill, because she had taken out this other important, cleansing. I mean, greens, juicing like that cleanses the body, but you also need to rebuild the body. And so that's what the organ meats do, by eating organ meats, kidney, liver, brain. Okay. So the other thing to think about, including in your diet, is probiotics. So probiotics are really important for the health of your gut, which again, the health of your gut determines the health of your immune system. So, probiotics, again, they restore the balance of the flora and fauna, the natural balance of bacteria in your intestines. So again, if you're eating poorly, you can have an overabundance of bad bacteria. So bacteria is not bad, it's just if it's out of whack in the body. So probiotics, really help restore the balance of good bacteria to your intestines. So things like bone broth, things like kefir, sauerkraut, miso soup, these are all sources of that. Okay, again, just to give you basic definitions, again, protein is meat, dairy, eggs, and wild fish. So we're talking about really good meat, grass-fed meat, and wild fish. Because if you eat regular meat, commercial meat, besides the way they actually, farm the animals, which is horrible, they're fed on grains, so you're essentially just eating grains. So by eating really good grass-fed meat, in just small portions, you might only have to eat 3 to 4 ounces, so it is more expensive, but you just need to eat a little bit. Same thing with wild fish, it's much, much healthier than farm fish. Pastured eggs, free-range eggs. So again, you want to cut out the carbs or reduce dramatically your carbs. Carbs are bread, rice, pasta, right? All the things. Everybody sort of nods their head, but it's really, when you change your diet, like when I work with people and they actually make these changes, not only do they lose weight, they have more energy, their skin is clearer, like a lot of these symptoms go away that they're coming in with: congestion, sinus congestion, brain fogs. So fats, avocado again, coconut oil, fatty fishes, nut butters, cashew butter, almond butter, not peanut butter. You could have sweet potatoes, squash. Those are carbs, but those are good examples of carbs. Again, no vegetable oils, safflower, sunflower, no canola oil.
What about like olive oil?
Good. That's good, yeah. So just avoid, these are all when I say what to avoid, these are inflammatory foods, that are in bread, the gluten, but besides the gluten, just the wheat, the way the wheat is grown, wheat, rye, corn, those are all grown very poorly now. They're growing massive amounts, and the quality is very bad. So again, this low-fat diet creates. Now the doctors actually are pushing cholesterol they keep lowering the cholesterol amount so that they can put you on these statins. Now they have it that you should be under 200, but that's ridiculous. You shouldn't be that low. It should be more like the mid 200s is fine. You have to be careful with your yogurt, because the yogurt in the store mostly has added sugar. So you got to read your labels. So the main things.
12 grams.
The main things to cut out. Biggest things that people are allergic to are wheat, corn, sugar, dairy. So these are very common allergens. So again, you should think of having tons of vegetables. Like 2/3 of your plate should be vegetables. So we have it backwards here. We put, a 12-ounce piece of meat or fish, and then a little thing for vegetables, but it should be the opposite. It should be 2/3 vegetables. And again, it should be really just diverse. Then your fats, and then your fruits and berries. Well, fruits, also be aware that there's a lot of sugar in fruits. And then nuts and seeds. So the way I start off now, in terms of getting more probiotics into my diet, I have this shake that another doctor kind of put together, which consists of kefir, blueberries, bone broth, flax seeds, cinnamon, ginger. Yeah, pretty much that, and a little honey, a little raw honey. So you're really getting this really nourishing drink. You feel much better.
What does that taste like?
What about what?
Does it taste good?
Yeah, because it has the blueberries. It has a little bit of raw honey, right? It's got cinnamon, a little cinnamon. Yeah, no, it tastes good actually. Okay, so any questions? So these are general sort of guidelines to, that you may or may not be aware, but, it really makes a difference when you start to be a little more strict with what you're eating.
So I have a question. I know somebody, that I won't mention any names, and they only eat salad. That's it. Maybe an apple.
An orange, maybe.
An orange.
They don't eat salad,
They
they don't
only eat salads.
Only salad.
Do you throw a chicken in there every once in a while?
They also eat. They also eat.
Not to mention any names.
Grass-fed meat.
Okay.
So
Although
in the winter,
I've never seen said person eat.
I've
any type
never
of
seen that person eat that.
I've only seen them eat a salad, that's it.
well, that's not good. And especially in the winter, you should be aware that, it's too cold, the salad. You really should be having more like cooked vegetables, sauteed vegetables, steamed vegetables,
Not that I eat it better than you.
Like your boy DJ now.
Maybe throw some grilled chicken in there.
Yeah.
Would you suggest
Well,
like
grass-fed beef.
a multivitamin or some kind of supplement?
No, like, most people that I test for, there's, I'm going to talk a little bit, but since you're asking, the supplements that are out there are really not good. They're like synthetic, so it's very different when you have I'm going to show you some of these products, like a complete vitamin C complex. That means that would be the same as eating an orange or eating a lemon, right? That's how they cured the sailors, that's how they got the idea of limeys, So that's really different than just taking like ascorbic acid in huge amounts. It's actually toxic to the body, and it's a synthetic. The body doesn't necessarily recognize it because it's not in our DNA. So most commercial supplements are not really good. We test people specifically, meaning I'm going to show you what that looks like in a minute. But we test people to see how they react to these, and most 95% of people who bring their supplements they bring in don't test well. So if you're eating well, you probably, particularly at your age, you probably wouldn't need a multi. But we also do what's called design clinical nutrition, which means that we're just targeting what your body's needing and giving it very specific nutrients rather than just a global, vitamin. Okay. So again, in the winter, you want to eat warming foods, not cold foods. Again, just be aware that alcohol depresses the immune system. Okay, so I want to show you this type of work that we specifically do. And when you have, again, we could do it the other way around. When you have organs that are weak, then it's going to drive nutritional deficiencies. So basically each corner is affecting the other corners, right? So what we try to do is build the person up. Like I had a patient the other day who started with me she had this history of hip pain. She had trouble even going to the bathroom because her hip was so sore, and she couldn't bend over, she couldn't do a lot of basic functions. And she was doing well, and then I get a call. I saw her a couple of times, 3 or 4 times. And then I get a call. She's 80, but she's very, sharp for 80. She calls me and says, I'm not feeling well. I'm sick. And then 3 days later, or 4 days later, she calls me back and says, I went to my doctor. I have walking pneumonia. And then she calls me back again and said, I want you to cancel all my appointments through the rest of the month and through the middle of February because I have pneumonia. And what really tore at me is the fact that if she actually came in, we would hasten that. We would instead of it taking 6 weeks or 8 weeks to get better, she could be much better. Much better, much sooner. It's true, like in 3 weeks. So what we do is we figure out what's driving the situation, instead of just giving an antibiotic, right, which is probably what she's on, even though we don't even know if it's viral or bacterial, and her just sort of like waiting for her body really to heal itself, we can sort of help the immune system along. Right? So that's what this is called. What we do is called nutrition response testing. We're trying to uncover where there's a deficiency and what's weakening the organ. I'm going to demonstrate to make this clearer. So I brought along these test kits. So in other words, let's say the person has their bronchi show up weak. Now, or their lungs. So what does that mean when I say that their lungs show up weak? So we use a form of testing called muscle testing. The idea is if you put stress on an organ, on the sympathetic fibers of that organ, which is on the skin, and you take a strong muscle, let's say the deltoid muscle, which is right here. So if I test in the clear, and I'll demonstrate with someone in a second, the arm should stay strong, right? Because this muscle is fine. Meaning that this deltoid muscle will get taut and firm and immovable. But if I stress out an organ, a potential organ that has trouble, and I do the same test, the arm will weaken. And it sort of like goes with the idea that if you're in the cold, right, and you get frostbite, your body wants to protect your core, right? So it's the same thing here. If you have an organ that's already stressed, meaning it's not functioning at 100%, it's not diseased, but it's just not working the way optimally. And you do this kind of muscle test, that the body will, in its wisdom, will sacrifice the arm to protect this already stressed out organ. So I can go around to each organ and gland in the body and check to see if it's functioning at the level it should be. So again, it's not just, it could be, because a lot of people go to the doctor and they say, oh yeah, you're fine, but they're not fine. The organ could be functioning at 50% or 60%. It's not really functioning optimally. So we want to make sure it's functioning optimally. So this is what it looks like here, Laura, just face me.
Okay.
So you can put this arm down. So I'm going to push this arm and you just match my pressure. So if I go like this, you just go like this.
Okay.
So here we go. See, that's a lock muscle. Do you see? There's nothing, phony about it. It's like I'm just pressing on this muscle and it stays locked because it's a strong muscle. Okay. Just like if you can, just put your left hand over your belly button for a second. Just like that. Hold strong. Okay, good. So I want to just check some certain places, so certain organs or glands, Laura, and see what shows up. I don't know. Okay, hold strong. Ready? Hold strong. So look, did you see? Do you see? I'm not pressing any differently, just look at her arm. So here it's, Laura, you see the difference? Here
I
it's,
didn't feel the difference.
look. It's obvious, this is a lung point, this is a lung acupuncture point. And as soon as I get there, that's why I was surprised, it immediately went weak.
I must be sicker than I thought.
See, this is a bronchi, bronchioles, that's fine. This is her right lung, hold strong. You holding?
Yeah.
Okay, so in her lungs, something is going on, right? See, this is her stomach point. This is her liver. See, there's no weakening.
You have to have liver man.
What?
Liver man.
Yeah.
So I just went from, liver, stomach, spleen, no change. These are what we call test kits. So what these are homeopathic resonances in the little vials that contain sort of the energetic resonance of whatever I want to test. It could be a food, it could be any type of food, it could be any type of immune. So in the immune section I have parasites, fungus, bacteria, virus, right? So it's a good idea to know before you just start throwing stuff against the wall, which is what happens really when you go to the doctor, to know exactly what you're treating the person for. So let's have, here, Laura, come over here.
Okay.
So just face me and just touch with your left hand, just touch these 4 vials, just those 4.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to come up to the same place, this lung field, and okay, and there's no change. You're resisting me, right?
Yeah.
No change. So then I come up to here. Again, there's no change. So then I come up to here. So again, each quadrant is a different thing, like I said. Okay, hold strong. Hold strong. It's a little stronger, right? I'm going to check here. Now that's very strong. You see? Here, I'll push down a little more. and you're strong, you see? Now take your hand off the kid, and immediately goes down. Looks like magic, right?
I was gonna say, what is that?
So that was bacteria, so Laura, so in addition to giving her something for her lungs, so what I want to do is handle the interferer that's causing her lungs to not be functioning. I don't want to just say, here, just take, something for the lungs. I want to see what's interfering with the lungs. And it turns out she has an immune challenge, and it turns out it's bacterial. Okay?
That's cool.
It's cool, right?
That's
Oh, strong?
Alright, am I touching anything?
Yeah, no. Just touch this floor again. I want to just show you.
How does that transfer through her body? Like,
Magic.
how does it?
Again, her body-
Glass bottles or something.
Because that's a good question too, because we all have energetic fields. It's called the biosphere around us. We have an energetic field around us. And she has a field, I have a field, you have a field, and these things have fields. I'm looking for a change of state. It went from, see, all the other immune challenges she touched, there was no change in state. Her arm just stayed weak. But when she touched that one, it got very strong. So I know that there's something going on, that's the reason that her lungs aren't working. So I brought her some supplements to show you that I think there's got to be some people in this organization that aren't up to snuff, right? That's what my opinion. So here, if I come over here, look. So just hold this in your hand.
Okay.
So again, if this product is resonant with her, like in other words, if her body innately says, yeah, I like this, it'll change, the state will change. Okay, so if I come back here, that's my starting point, right? And you see how strong you are? She's very strong. I'm not tough. So this product is actually, good for bacterial infections. It has, I think it restores the physiological balance. Let's say you get sick because your physiology, your autonomic nervous system and physiology is out of whack. It's not, your homeostatic mechanism is not working. And it's usually due to poor diet. So by giving, these things that are made of sort of minerals or that boost the immune system, this actually supports the thymus gland, So the thymus gland is a gland that actually is for your immune function. It supports immune function. So this is kind of an extract of that gland that's what it is. So again, if I use, let's say I take another product and hold this. See, look. No, see? So this actually,
Pushing harder.
no, I'm not here, I'll show you.
No, I tried pushing harder.
Yeah, see, this one is actually a digestive enzyme that most people over the age of 35, at least 35, 40, need, because they're just not making enzymes anymore. When you're young, you have a ton of enzymes, and it's like you can get away with a lot. But as you get older, you don't have that, So let's just check another, supplement and see, let's try this. See, again, look how strong you got, right? She can tell you that I'm not pushing harder. Certain supplements just work better. See,
Would she take all of them or just one?
well, so far I've only found 2. See, this doesn't test well. This actually tests well for viruses, but she doesn't have a virus. So it's like I'm using my own educated mind to pick out what supplements I think, but that ultimately I always test it against her body's innate system, right? That's what's different in medicine. Medicine just says we're gonna do this. We're gonna jumpstart your system. We're gonna override your autonomic system to get this therapeutic result. We're not doing that. We may have an idea of how we should work, but we always want to test it against the person, right? That's very strong. So this is also something you should be aware of in the winter to get plenty of sunlight. Even though it's cold out, today now it's sunny, you should be getting at least 20, 30 minutes of sunlight, a day, because it's really boosts your immune function. It's really helped her. It's okay, not great though. It's okay, but not great. Right?
Yeah,
You see the
I
difference?
felt it, yeah.
So it's a little helpful, but not great. This is actually a natural antihistamine. It's also great for viral infection. It's a liver detoxifier, but it doesn't, in her case, that's not what she needs. She needs something more specific for the bacteria. So this is why with avoiding certain foods, eating the right foods, and taking these supplements, you can take someone who's sick, like I was sick, and I'm way older than you, and in like a day or two, I'm better. Like that's crazy if you think about it. Like most people are sick, like for a week, 2 weeks, you know. So I know now if I see the person who tests me, this is called getting checked. She checks me, I know I'm gonna be better, like very quickly. She's gonna find what's wrong. She's gonna tell me what stressors. So again, it could be a food allergy. It could be an immune challenge. It could be a chemical, because there's tons of chemicals now around. Or it could be a metal toxicity. So these are all like toxins that don't affect the nervous system adversely. You know, chemical, metal, immune, and food. Also scars affect the immune system. So this is why it's called design clinical nutrition, because it's also different than, you know, when you asked about the multivitamin, that's like the opposite of design clinical nutrition. That's like you go to your doctor and they say, oh, you take a multi. I mean, it's better than nothing, but frankly, it may not be targeting what your body's needing, you know? So what we want to do is, again, design a program that's specific to you, that'll get you better right away, that'll support your body right away. So we work with babies to the elderly. And again, you know, people can come in with any diagnosis. You know, before I discovered this, even when I was doing sort of cutting edge nervous system work with the Feldman method and cranial, I still would, you know, certain people would come in and say, oh no, I can't do that. You know, if they had like MS or, you know, a neurological problem. But now, this more than ever proved to me that you're not your diagnosis. What we want to find out is what is in the way of you being healthy, right? And then treat it by, you know, handling the stressor that involved these things I just talked about, and then also, you know, giving adequate nutrition. You know, like in Laura's case, what showed up is pneumotrophin. That's lung tissue. So it's basically giving her lung tissue to get her lungs to start, you know, working again, right? So think of it like this, like these are genuine, we call it genuine replacement parts. Just like if you had an old car and you wanted to fix it up and restore it, you could, a 65 Mustang, and it would be, or a Corvette, and it would be a great car again, it'd be brand new. But you have to put in, you know, all new parts. That's what we're doing here. We're sort of like jump-starting organs that need support, because most people, when they complain of X, Y, Z, it means that that organ is weak, it's sort of it needs support. Okay, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, what exactly are in those supplements? Or like, are they minerals? Are they mostly?
They're made, so good question. So this is
the body. Or?
These are all
A lot of
made
people get those.
from a company called Standard Process. So they make whole food supplements, so it's actually food. This is all just food. It's like alfalfa, you know, Spanish black radish, these are just, you know, onions, you know, these are just food that is ground up into a pill. So it's not a chemical, it's not a synthetic, it's not fractionated, it's a whole food complex. So it's really food, it's a high concentrate food, a high density food. It'd be like if you ate a lot of X, Y, Z, right? Does that answer your question?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so most of what you see in stores, even the best stores, are synthetic. So they're all synthetic, you know. This company's been around for like 80 years, I think. It had, you know, it was a prototype for organic farms. It has, you know, very rich topsoil still. It's a great organization and farm. So that's where, you know, that's primarily what we use food-based stuff like this, but we also use herbs and homeopathics as well. So these are all natural ways of restoring your immune system back to normal without any, harmful effects, which drugs always have a side effect, any drug. So this is either going to help or it's going to do nothing. So it's a really good idea to get checked. If you feel like you're not getting better, like I say, all the stuff that John's working with me on. If you're not getting results either on your own or with a practitioner, you should do something to get results, right? You should move the needle a little. So this is a way to do that, right? A very safe, gentle way to do that by getting back to where you should be. So it's worth it to get checked.